Inside Gaming is sponsored by ExpressVPN. They're the fastest VPN we've ever used. Try them out at expressvpn.com/inside.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Tuesday. Let's talk about Star Citizen, which recently celebrated a big anniversary.
Again? Everybody's favorite piece of vaporware turned 8 today. It's a big boy, and they celebrated in true Star Citizen fashion. Another delay.
Yeah, you might remember the Star Citizen was announced. Okay. You might remember that Star Citizen was announced back on October 10th of 2012. It was a crowd-funded project to make an immersive space simulation/combat game. It had an impressive pedigree with the legendary developer Chris Roberts running the show. Players jumped on board to support it. Let's go! Let's go!
It has since become one of the most successful crowdfunded ventures ever, raising more than $300 million from fans who really wanted a big space sim game on their PCs. Shame all that money could have gone to one of Zach Braff's indie movie fundraisers.
As the money rolled in, the scope of the project expanded too. Star Citizen would eventually split into 2 games, a multiplayer game which they called the Persistent Universe, and a single-player campaign called Squadron 42, which stars big name talent like Mark Hamill, Julian Anderson, Henry Cavill, and others.
You're just gonna go with that read of, okay.
Yep.
But does this character model look like Henry Cavill?
I mean, they look like squishy 2011 versions of themselves.
Yeah,
I guess Kit Harington looked like Kit Harington in Call of Duty, so.
Yeah, and Pompeii.
And Pompeii, yeah.
And
Anyways, so while the developer has released a very early alpha build of the Persistent Universe, aka Star Citizen, the development of Squadron 42 has gone much slower. So Squadron 42 was originally supposed to come out 6 years ago, but as with everything Star Citizen, deadlines don't really mean much. They're more like a vague suggestion.
The development team over at Roberts Space Industries put out an impressive looking trailer for the game along with an hour of gameplay in 2018. Then it was reported that the game was expected to go into beta later this year, 2020. Did not happen, and in March the developer announced that they were abandoning their roadmap for Squadron 42, saying that it wasn't accurately reflecting the work on the game. Just in the middle of Nevada and your dad's like, F the map, it doesn't accurately depict where we are in the state.
So that enraged backers of the game who took to Reddit to air their grievances. To try and calm them down, the developer promised a new roadmap for the game, but recently we got a new progress report on the status of Squadron 42 from none other than Chris Roberts himself.
He came down from the mountaintop?
2 stone tablets. And you know what he said?
No.
They're not done yet.
Oh.
Game's not done.
Maybe I could have guessed that.
Sounds like it's not even close to being done. I want to say, this game looks pretty cool. Stop giving it money, because it will never come out, but I kind of get it, that, like, I get the initial wanting to buy in on it. 8 years later, I maybe don't understand so much, but, like, game looks cool.
Hey, it took James Cameron, like, what, 25 years to make Avatar?
He also didn't announce it the same day he had the idea.
Roberts did an AMA on the game's official website where he answered questions from fans who were clearly annoyed at all the delays. One backer, Bobblenator, pointed out that Squadron 42 is now 6 years behind its original promised release date and wrote that over recent years there has been little communication on updated delivery targets for SQ42.
They wrote, as it stands, the community has completely divided opinions on the expected release date of Squadron 42. Some think it's still years away.
Yeah, Roberts responded a bit defensively, pointing out that the new roadmap, quote, will do a much better job in showing what people are working on at any given time as opposed to just focusing on deliverable features. Very smart, showing that even though there's not something being delivered, those people are hard at work. But we should add that they haven't really even released that new roadmap. They're still working on the roadmap, which will then show the work that's being done on that roadmap.
But don't worry about roadmaps and roadmaps to roadmaps, because while they're not planning to release the game anytime soon, the team is going to do what it does best, release videos about making video games.
Yes.
Watch out, NoClip, they're coming for your lunch.
Roberts announced a new feature called The Briefing Room that's focused on the development of Squadron 42. He said that they'll release a new episode every 3 months until the game releases. The first episode, it's more than an hour long, full of developers chatting about their progress and showing off sections of the game.
Just fundamentally misunderstanding why people watched that documentary about Half-Life Alyx, a game that was made in secret and came out.
But that's kind of the problem with the whole project, is that they're clearly working on something, but their updates, when they do happen, are these big information dumps, and they kind of just focus on really granular aspects of the game. And it feels like they're kind of constantly just lost in the weeds, maybe, rather than, acting out of any sense of urgency to actually ship the game.
In responding to fans asking for more status updates, Roberts claimed that we have multiple video shows per week, lore updates, developers regularly engage in the forums, have a weekly newsletter, as well as regular monthly reports. So there's a lot of communication, but none of it answers the big question, when will the damn thing be done?
At the death of the sun, those Star Citizen's development shall conclude.
By the time you finish the game, none of the people who paid for it will be alive. It's not for them. It's not meant to be played.
By finishing development on Star Citizen, so too shall man have conquered entropy and kill God.
I'll be backing now, actually.
Oh, I'd give all my cash to that game. And in true Chris Roberts fashion, he did not answer any questions about when the game will actually come out. Instead, he said that they're trying to make a really ambitious game, which takes time. They're not going to be bound by anyone else's deadlines. He even went so far as to compare it to actual space travel, a much harder thing.
So to continue with this actual space analogy, in a letter from the chairman, Roberts paraphrased President John F. Kennedy's famous speech outlining America's goal to get to the moon.
Yes,
by the end of the decade. Roberts tried to link that monumental achievement to the Star Citizen project, writing, "We chose to build a game of Star Citizen's complexity and ambition, not because it is easy, but because it is hard."
I do an okay JFK.
Let's hear it.
We chose to build a game of Star Citizen's complexity and ambition, not because it is easy, but because it is hard.
I think you're doing JFK after spending like a couple months in Brooklyn, and he's just picked up a tiny bit of that accent
Just
by
a
accident.
little
Maybe.
bit.
In another post, Roberts wrote that Squadron 42 will be done when it is done, and will not be released just to make a date, but instead it will release once all the tech and content is finished, polished, and plays great.
He went on to say, "I am not willing to compromise making a game I believe in with all my heart and soul, and even though everyone, including me, wants Squadron 42 sooner than later, it would be doing a huge disservice to everyone working really hard on the project, and all of you that are looking forward to it to deliver something that isn't great."
So that's their official perspective. We're working on something amazing, and you're just gonna have to wait for it to be done. Then again, it's also been reported that the team has been blowing through all those millions, and that project is a disaster behind the scenes. Wolf of Wall Street in that money away.
For sure is.
Last year, Forbes published an expose on the game's troubled development. People who worked on the game said that it suffers from massive feature creep and that Chris Roberts had basically lost control of it all. Forbes reported that at the end of 2017, Roberts had just $14 million in the bank, although he has obviously since raised more.
And the money train keeps on rolling, baby.
Choo-choo!
Roberts said that 2020 is already our biggest year in terms of revenue, players, and engagement. And while Roberts acknowledged that there has been some frustration from fans after they abandoned the game's roadmap, he promised that it'll be worth the wait.
It feels especially gross to herald how much revenue you have when you haven't released a product.
Right, yeah.
Roberts wrote that with Squadron 42, I can finally immerse you as a player into your own adventure to rival any big-budget movie you might see on the big screen, interacting and forming relationships with characters played by some of your favorite actors and navigating battles and set pieces that would make any Star Wars film proud. Has anybody told Chris Roberts that the new Star Wars movies weren't even that good?
He should maybe specify which Star Wars movies he's talking about.
Attack of the Clones.
The only good one, really.
C-3PO's head is on a different robot.
Rolling in the aisles laughing.
Oh, I peed.
I shit myself in the theater.
Roberts added that I could have stuck to the original, much simpler game that was proposed in 2012, but with the increase in scope for Star Citizen, I felt I needed to build a single-player game to rival Star Citizen's multiplayer ambition.
Sorry for having big dreams, people. Guess I could have dumbed it down for you, but I won't. It's funny, too, because he directly points out the problem, which is that he pitched a much simpler game in 2012.
So basically, not to sound cynical, but it just feels like more of the same from Roberts. A lot of big promises, but not much when it comes to something to actually play.
I know this guy made a lot of games that were very important to you when you were younger. Please stop giving him money. Please. Please stop.
They needed to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. I love you.
So CD Projekt Red has been in the news lately after it was reported that they are going to be crunching employees, aka working the bejesus out of them, to get Cyberpunk 2077 over the finish line. Now, last month, Bloomberg's Jason Schreier reported that studio head Adam Badowski informed employees they're going to need to work longer